and child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection, okay? And that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. True. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Sabrina, and I'm your host for today. This is Fight CPS and Win, the Horror Stories reality series. Today, I have Melanie as a guest. Hi, Melanie. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what's going on?
Yeah, my name is Melanie, and actually, I'm a victim of domestic violence, which has never played a role in CPS and their decisions that they were making and the judge that they were making. Actually, back in early 2000s, I was actually hit by my ex-husband when I was pregnant with my middle son, and his true colors actually showed more after we got married. And because I come from a Christian background, raised in a family of pastors and teachers, I tried not to judge him, and I tried to make sure that the family stayed together and we work out our, any issues that adults usually try to do in marriages and so on. But anyway, his true colors showed, and there was a lot of abuse towards me, towards the children. And it wasn't just physical, it was verbal. And it was really hard on me because I was in a town where I didn't have any family, and I was scared, not knowing what to do, because I wanted to get out. I wanted to protect the boys and me. But when you don't have anybody support there and no money, it's hard to know what to do. And so we ended up moving, and it just started escalating to the point where in the current town that we're in, they got so frustrated with so many police calls, which I couldn't help, because a parent is supposed to be protecting their children. You're supposed to be protecting yourself. You're supposed to feel safe. And the county got so frustrated with all the police reports and calls that they had my ex-husband and I come to the office and, sat down with us, and they had threatened us that if neither one of us didn't do anything to keep the boys out of the middle, that they would file a CHIPS. And if a lot of people, some people don't know what CHIPS is, but it's Children in Need of Protection Services. And put the boys in foster care. And so when you're a single mom and have no money and have been unsuccessful getting legal aid help, what are you supposed to do?
It's very difficult.
Yeah, you're being put in this position where I want to get out, but how do I start my life with the boys, and where do I go? And so my anxiety and the fears got, started going, and I didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to lose the boys either.
Yeah.
So when you're in a position like that, you don't know what to do. It's a very scary position to be in.
Right.
And so due to the fact that I wanted to protect the boys, and it wasn't like I wasn't wanting to, but also the fact that we get this threat from the county, I didn't know what else to do. So my family was kind of scared too. So they retained an attorney for me to get a divorce in 2007. And then little did I know that when people say that there's help out there, there's not. And, it was really hard for me because I've been working with domestic violence advocates and my supports to weigh out what's in our best interest, what should I do, when, so on.
Yeah.
And it was about primarily the kids. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Because all my, married life, and since I had the boys, it's family is important to me. And it's not like I didn't want, to stay a family, because I did. But where do you put the line? I wasn't going to risk the safety and the well-being of my children and me. And it's hard because of so many flashbacks. I have CPTSD because of all this, so I may take some breaths here.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a child, my parents went through domestic violence, and one day my mother decided she was going to leave my dad, and I ended up living in a shelter for domestic violence as a child for many, many years. And to be honest with you, it was so much more difficult than if my mom just would have left and done her own thing. The way that we were treated and all the hoops we had to go through. The first house they placed us in was in Watts in LA. It's a really bad part of town. And so, yeah, it is very difficult, and all the classes you have to take, and it's really triggering, just to have to be in those classes and counseling and have to bring everything back again. It's a really difficult situation. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
Well, it's what's really frustrating is when you keep seeing the mission statements of police departments and of county attorneys where they say that they want to work with the public and serve and protect and, so on and so forth. It's like, really? I don't think so. Where is our protection? Okay. It's unbelievable the amount of evidence that I've provided to the court, that I've provided the police reports from when I was hit when I was pregnant. It specifically says that he was arrested and put in handcuffs for the safety of the officers and me. And yet the judge that I had when I filed for divorce, everything just went past his head. It's like, I can't help that there really isn't a guideline. Like, when you get divorced, he said the only thing that he can put down is that there's irreconcilable differences. So that doesn't help matters any. Somehow we're going to have some kind of law passed to make domestic violence a reason for a spouse to divorce. And
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, And if you, even when it says irreconcilable differences, doesn't that tell you something that we can't reconcile with anything? So there might be some issues that are going to be some pretty problematic. And it wasn't just the physical abuse that I had to deal with. It's the power and control. He had to control everything, very manipulative. Everybody pretty much understands, I'm sure, that are watching. And it's, you know, even though I'm not a mental health professional, the signs that I saw with him and things that were just unrealistic and kind of, I questioned, is that really normal? You know, and so when we had, when I had first shifts, the reason why I actually had the boys taken from me twice. I've been the one to be punished all these years in my fight to protect the boys and me and to move on. And the first time I had the boys taken away was I was at a MOPS class, and that's Mothers of Preschoolers. And so I was with in a group with a lot of other mothers, and just it was kind of an out for me. Instead of just being home and going to work, it was something to do for me with other moms.
Yeah.
And for the boys to interact with kids at their own age and so on, so they can feel a little bit more independent and do some fun things.
Yeah.
Instead of this back and forth visitation, mommy, daddy, they needed to do extracurriculars and things with their own peers. And it was really hard because when I go to a bunch of these groups, it's hard for me to hear how wonderful a bunch of these other moms have it with the fathers. You know, they're doing things together and family time, and
that's difficult to see.
It was hard on me. It's not that I was happy for them, but it's a trigger for me because that's what I kind of want for my boys and me.
So you have the domestic violence, and then CPS gets involved because of it. So why exactly did they take them away? Did they, I mean, obviously they probably had to do domestic violence courses and all that, right?
Right. Well, because of my, you know, because of my triggers, sometimes I guess I get teary-eyed, and it was after one of our groups, and I was just in a hallway, and it just so happened that around that time, some parent or some lady escaped her abuse with her kids. And, you know, it's hard to explain because I don't want people taking it wrong. And I think that's what happened at that time when people misunderstand something and what you're saying.
Sure.
Some lady in New York ended up driving away and leaving her abuser, and ended up driving into a river and you know, hurt her kids, and they didn't survive. But you know, what I was thinking in my head at the time was just escaping the abuse, and I don't want anything happening to me and the boys. Please, somebody, please help me. And that's all I kept saying was, please help me and the boys. This whole time I was like, please protect us. Does somebody know what could be done? Well, because I was referring to a situation, they construed it as I was going to do that to my kids. I never even said those words that I was going to do something to harm the boys or me. Never once.
They twisted what you were saying.
Pardon me?
They were twisting what you were saying.
Exactly. And you know how the telephone game works, where, you know, one person thinks they hear one thing, and then they go and tell another person, and it turns out way different at the end. Well, in this situation, it went from, you know, and what's ironic is that one of the gals that I was talking to was called to talk to me, and she was like a family facilitator that I would have come to the house and work with me and the boys with getting through situations and stuff. I was actually going to the county for working with people. I wasn't expecting to go to the county and work with these people and have things turned around on me. And so she
It
must
shouldn't
have
be that way.
gone to, pardon me?
It shouldn't be that way. I can't stand how the system works.
I don't understand it either. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a mandated reporter, but you've been working with me and the boys. You know darn well that we were doing all these games and the boys were showing you notes about how scared they are, their dad. They never once said anything or relayed any inclination that I was gonna hurt them to her. And so it went from her to supervisor to whoever, and it just so happened that my ex and I were supposed to go to mediation, which, by the way, you're not supposed to be doing when there's domestic violence between the two parents. The judges are supposed to take that into consideration. And so we went to a mediation meeting, and you know how you start tingling a little bit and have this feeling that something just isn't right. I
Yep.
started shaking and sweating, and my anxiety got the best of me because I knew something wasn't right, because all of a sudden it's me in the room and nobody else was in there. Then all of a sudden, the child protection supervisor comes in and an investigator comes in and kind of says that they're giving my boys to my abusive ex-husband because they thought that I was gonna hurt my boys and me. They never once saw all the documentation that I've had of how the boys and I have been abused by him, and that was the whole reason why I got divorced.
Yeah. It's amazing how much I keep hearing the same thing, that CPS will take the children from one parent and give them to the other, knowing that they're drug addicts, knowing that they have felonies or they just got a DUI, and that's okay. They can go with them, but you're going to take the child from the parent who doesn't have any of that going on. And I can't believe like how much I keep hearing this.
Right. And I was always told that you cannot take anything into court unless you can prove it. Not once has the county ever provided any proof that those words that they were assuming that I said came out of my mouth. Never once. But yet they put me on a 72-hour hold, take my children, my abusive ex-husband, which, mind you, is very prone for remodeling. So he takes them to his dumps that have no functioning bathroom. He never gave my son his medications like he was supposed to. My boys were struggling more in school. They were in the same clothes every time I had supervised visits. And I even had the gal that did some of my supervised visits testify in court. She was confused too, because she was another one that I had worked with prior to all the shenanigans. I had invited her into the house to work with me and the boys to work on things to see how we can cope with their father in the house,
Right.
And she was perplexed too. She's like, the boys keep saying they don't know why the judge is doing this to us, and I want to go home with mom. And every time I would be there for a supervised visit, they knew the truth. They would break down crying, and they didn't want me to leave, and they didn't want to go with their father because he's the one that's been hitting them, slapping them, throwing them to the ground, not giving my son his meds that almost killed him. What kind of a backward situation is this?
It's so corrupt.
And mind you, I had a pet therapy dog. My dog that I had was my therapy. And so when I was put on a 72-hour hold, I couldn't think of anything but what my kids are going through, and my dog, I wasn't sure if I was going to come back home to a dead dog because I kept begging for somebody to please help me get to my dog so I could let her out and feed her, give her water, everything I'm supposed to do for my pet. So it wasn't just the negligence of not protecting my children and aiding and abetting my ex. It's animal cruelty. 72 hours. My dog was in her kennel with
goodness.
nobody helping me take care of her. I had no family around here, no friends because of the situation with my ex-husband. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's so
they
sad.
kept saying that I'm the one with mental health issues, and they still to this day target me that I'm the one with mental health issues. I'm sorry, I have PTSD because of the trauma. I
Right.
have anxiety because it got to the point with dealing with this chaotic county that I'm still having issues with because they still haven't held my ex-husband accountable for anything since we moved back here in 2007, and I kept getting that was the second time, but we went through all this CPS stuff, and finally at the end of the day when we had court, you know what the final outcome was for that first time, for that first chips with that comment? The judge said it was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstood comment. You put me on a 72-hour hold, unlawful imprisonment, violating my rights to protect my kids.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
And mind you, just so you know, my oldest son does have life-threatening medical issues. He's got CAH. And
see, they get more funding for children who have any kind of disabilities or health issues.
Exactly. That's why I've been targeted all these years with my boys. I have 3 boys. One of them was life-threatening medical issues. And I've always been a documenter. And I've always been, because of the forced visitation, I was forced to have joint legal custody with a narcissist. Go figure.
Yeah.
And so I would write out, like, I would have to treat him like a child almost, because I would write the notes and had my own chart of what meds to give our son, how much, when, and all he had to do was put a check mark after he was working with my son and would give it to him. I have over 9+ years of documented missed medications for my son in his care that did cause serious problems and almost killed my son. That's why I haven't had time to technically take care of regular household stuff. I'm by myself. I have no family. I've been taking care of my oldest son with all his stress and anxiety, taking him to the emergency room, taking him to doctor's appointments, taking all 3 of the boys to their therapist, going to my counselor and therapist, going to domestic violence classes.
Yeah.
My plate is on overload.
Right. Absolutely.
And so,
how old were your kids when they were taken from you the first time?
I think that was like, if I remember right, the first time was 2010. I divorced when they were 4, 6, and 7 years old.
Okay.
So I think it was 2010. So I don't even remember because I know it's twice that they were taken from me.
Okay.
But they were young yet. I mean, they were toddler age. So that one got all done. And then,
so both times where they removed the kids, did they go to dad or were they placed in a foster? Yes. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
the first time with this comment thing, after we got done with the meeting, the officer said that they were going to meet my ex-husband at my friend's house that was watching our boys while we had this so-called mediation meeting. That's why I don't have a lot of friends, because they are so frustrated and don't want to be in the middle of like my trying to do things for these boys, and then all of a sudden my abuser narcissistic manipulator shows up out of the blue and smirks, or cops show up. They have so destroyed our lives, and it got to the point where I was afraid to get a job. I was afraid to go to a store. I was afraid to do anything. And I almost wanted to just isolate the boys and me in the house, because no matter where we go, somebody's going to say something, or the cops are going to just snatch the kids or snatch me just because, you know.
Yeah, that's understandable to think that way and feel that way. So after the first time they said that it was a misunderstanding and they gave you your children back, how did they end up removing them the second time?
So the second time, because of all the trauma, it caused one of my sons to go down a wrong path. Okay. And I don't want to get into specifics. I'm trying to respect, what we've gone through and everything. But an officer ended up coming to my house with them, and he didn't even come in the whole house. He was on the side of the house, on steps that my parents actually helped me build. So they keep talking about the fact that I don't care about the safety and well-being of the kids here. I was trying to get my parents' help, and I was trying to do everything I can to make sure this house is safe and livable and everything, because my ex, like I said, does a lot of remodeling, so there's a lot of fixing up to do and stuff, but we're working on it. But anyway, he was right there just outside the side door, and he didn't ask me any questions. We were just talking about what was going on with my son at the time, because it was like at 1:00 in the morning or something like that. And the next thing I know, I think it was the next day, I went to the store after I had gotten the boys home from school. Not that long after I got to the store, I was getting texts from two of the boys that the cops were at the house. And my whole front yard was plastered full of two investigators, I think a guardian ad litem, CPS workers, uniformed officers, and it was so frustrating for me to see their faces and their smirks. All these male officers, having that big ego, and per law, none of them identified themselves. If they're supposed to, by law, I think if I understood right, give like 3 forms of identification. I kept asking for that. Nobody wanted to give identification. But this whole time, when I got back, and I actually videotaped them.
Good.
So it's all on videotape.
Good job.
And I learned the hard way. Believe me, I learned the hard way. But what bothered me is the fact that they were in and out of my house before I even got home. These boys were young. They were old enough to be home just for me to go a store down the street and come home, because they were almost teenagers. Okay. And it was hard on me when I got home to know that cops were in my house, taking pictures, videotaping, raiding my refrigerator. It's like, excuse me, you're traumatizing my kids. Why do you think we're going to counseling? Do you not understand why we go to counseling? This isn't helping matters.
So they were there, the cops and everybody were there because of your son? Or did somebody make a call? Like, what was like the main reason why all those people showed up?
Oh, because the officer put in his report that he thought he smelled like an odor or something. It's like, I'm one that loves candles and incense because it's a stress reliever for me. I like to have windows open, you know, and some other odd things that he, you know, falsely puts down in his report. And then because when they, and that's what confuses me, how they can add on things to put in the report to slam you for. Because like I said, that original officer wouldn't have known a bunch of other stuff unless he keyed in the whole house, and he didn't. So how they can justify just barging in my house and then just keep adding on stuff. And a lot of it, you know, when they took the boys too, there I never had a hearing to defend myself or anything. And usually when they remove children, it's, you know, if it's an emergency, they have to, you know, I'm not a criminal. There was nothing imminent danger, is what I was trying to say. There was nothing that justified them taking them that was caused them imminent danger. Everything that they were putting in their reports is just ridiculous, because I've had county workers and mandated reporters in this house while I was working with the boys. Not a single one of them ever said anything about an odor in the house before. Now all of a sudden you bring it up. Something's wrong with this picture.
Yeah. So at that point, they took the kids and placed them with father again.
Yeah, they told my son, and it's on videotape too. They asked the boys if they wanted to either go to their fathers, who is the abuser that I divorced for a reason,
right,
or go to foster care. What kind of a choice is that to give my children? And they know where they're going to go. If they go to foster care, they're probably never going to see me again.
So after they took the kids and put them back with dad, how long was it until you were able to see them again?
I think it was well over a year. I mean, it's
Or you had any kind of visits or anything?
Yeah, I had supervised visits. So it doesn't make sense, because why I couldn't like take my kids to school and stuff like that. You know, my ex-husband would be working in the morning. I was never a danger or threat to the boys. I wasn't doing anything to them. I wasn't hitting them. My ex was, but I wasn't. I wasn't doing anything to my children to harm them or hurt them.
Right. And was your ex criminally charged for some of the abuse that he did to you?
No, and that's why I'm so frustrated. I have so many police reports, and one of them specifically said the officer put in his report about my son saying my dad hit me, and it's in his medical chart, child abuse by father. And this is prior to all of these times that the boys were taken from me, and they were. This whole thing is just not making sense. And that's why I'm trying to figure out how to get a federal attorney to help me with lawsuits, because the damage has been so done to these kids.
Yeah.
And when they took them away the second time too, you know, I'm a housekeeper at a hotel. And so when guests leave behind, you know, beer or whatever in the fridge, I'm not an alcoholic. I've never drank alcohol. And so I'm always been a kind person. I give it to whoever wants it. I don't want to waste it. So just because, and I'm over 21, legally I have a right to have beer.
I was just gonna say, yeah,
okay?
You're an adult. You're allowed to.
Yes. So just because they see some alcohol in the house, they jump the gun and they force me to do a Rule 25 because they think I'm dependent on alcohol and drugs. I don't even know where they get the drugs from, because my son needs prescription medication for all his health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never even heard of Rule 25. What is that? So
I'm not really sure, actually. I have to look into that one.
Well, it's just some test or whatever to deem you as being dependent on alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. And so when I had to go do these questions with this lady, I started shaking and sweating again because I knew with how she was asking me questions, she was trying to set me up that
Yeah.
I that I drink a lot or I'm, just it's like
Yeah. They do it
no.
on purpose, I can't even tell you how many times I hear and have been in a group class and these people have never ever had a drug problem, but CPS will find any little tiny thing to try to make you look like a drug addict, like an alcoholic. And I think it's just because they get more funding when you have to go take all their courses and all their classes. And it's just another reason to show the courts that you look bad, and to have to go to all these classes and drug tests and jump through all their hoops on top of working, on top of being a single mom. It's a lot. And of course, anyone would have anxiety talking to them, about that. So you're not alone. When I talk to them, I'm the same way. I'm shaking, I'm sweating because I know how they are. I know how they twist things, and it makes it intimidating,
Right.
and they use that against you.
Right. And I learned the hard way. I did the best I could to try to record and document and stuff like that. And it's funny because the second time, was about house conditions and this and that. But yet all these times before they took them from me, my ex-husband's former girlfriends and the boys have all reported to authority that my ex didn't have functioning bathrooms. When he had the boys during the second time they were taken from me, he had a pipe burst in one of his houses that caused my son with medical issues to not be able to breathe. And I was trying to get a 911 and nobody would do anything. And this was in his father's care.
Wow.
It's like, and where was his father? In another town. His father wasn't even there. And when I kept trying to call 911, they said, well, if he needs 911, he can call 911. It's like, he can't. He can hardly breathe. It took about 7 times to finally get an ambulance to him. And I've got pictures of him
Ridiculous.
on the gurney in the ER just to make sure I've got that proof that that's where he was because of this issue.
Right.
But I've had
How-
to deal with. Go ahead.
How do the kids feel about dad? Are they not wanting to be there at all? What is their relationship like?
They don't have one, and they kept trying to tell authority that for years. And it's been so frustrating because it's not just my 3 boys. He has a daughter from his previous marriage. Does not have any bond or very close relationship with any 4 of his kids. None of his 4 kids had normal graduations. None of his 4 kids have gone to college. All 4 of his kids have been struggling with frustrations and depression. I don't know if you want to say depression, but they're frustrated that they don't have a normal dad in their life like everybody else.
Yeah. Understandable. I was the same way. So where are you at right now with everything then? Are the boys are they with dad? Like have you lost your parental rights? Like where exactly are you in this game right now?
Actually, they all aged out now. They're 19, almost 21, and almost 22.
Okay.
But I still have the 2 younger ones living with me.
Okay.
And they haven't talked to their dad in years. And the older 2 actually haven't talked to him since they finally were old enough to just walk home and stay home and not go there for visitation. So their father kind of just gave up on them and let them stay home without a fight. but the youngest one, of course, because it was his fourth child, the last one, he kind of had an issue with and forced him to kind of be with him till he turned 18. So
would you say that your ex did this to get back at you, maybe for the domestic violence issues? Like, was he maybe just doing this to hurt you and not really in the best interest of the kids?
Oh, it's all that coercive control and retaliation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he still to this day is blaming me for his losing his full-time job in the town that we had a house in after we got married. He's blaming me because of me getting him arrested for him hitting me. So
wow, it sounds like you're dealing with a narcissist.
Yeah, and actually, is with you saying that, we had psychological evaluations done, and it was funny because the evaluator proved in her testimony in court everything I've been trying to tell these, authority people all these years, that he's an abuser, narcissistic, sociopathic, liar, master manipulator, does not do well with kids. Now, why does he still have any visitations with the boys and overnights, and where's the supervised visits, and what is going on? And he's, like you said before about him being charged with a thing, it's asinine how he hasn't been charged with assaulting me.
Yeah.
He assaulted me in front of my son's school in 2010, and I had an injury to my arm because I did what the judge told me to. I called him to let him know that I'm not working yet, and in the court order it says that he has them when I'm not working, or when I am working. So I called him and I said I was going to go pick up our son. Of course, because I called him, he shows up anyway. And both of us were going to get charged with disorderly conduct, despite the fact that I was doing what the judge told us to.
That's annoying. That's really annoying. So
I have years and years and years of planners. For everybody that's watching, make sure you document. Yeah. I have so many years of planners so that when somebody asks you when such and such incident occurred, or so you can show a pattern and what happened.
I completely
I've got every bit of proof imaginable, and pictures and video, record, document. Yes. You've got, then you'll have.
Because you don't think going into this that that a county worker is going to lie to you, or they're going to do their job correctly or not. And it's amazing how many times I see videos where people pull out a camera and start recording, and the whole interview process goes completely different. They don't want to be seen on camera. Their stories start changing, whatever it is. I had an experience with a investigative worker who made a deal with me in court, not even in the courtroom, in the alley. And I could never get a hold of that worker ever again. Even though I showed up at the office, I called. And if I would have just had that recording of what she had promised me, everything would have been so much different. But like you were saying earlier, I learned the hard way. And you're right. If I can't recommend it, all of you guys out there, please record everything with these people, because they are crooked and they will twist anything that they can.
Yeah. And one of the supervisors or CPS workers that did come to the house at one point, one of them said that they don't take kids away, and I've seen worse houses than yours. As long as you have food for them to eat, beds for them to sleep in, a roof over your head, you have no worries. Then why did you guys take them away from me? Because of a spot on my carpet. I have an overripe banana. And when they raided my refrigerator, it's not organized properly enough. Those are not legal grounds to be taking my kids.
Yeah. One of the times that I had experience with, actually, CPS wasn't even involved at this point, but the police came out to my house, and I asked for them to please wait until my mother can take my daughter because I don't want her around any of this. Well, they tried to charge me with child endangerment because there was a knife on the kitchen counter next to the sink, because I was about to wash up. And like, where else is it going to go? Like, it's right there by the sink. And it ended up getting dropped in court. They didn't even look at it at all. But still, like, to say you're going to take away my child, my baby, my life over a knife on the kitchen counter or a spot on the floor or a banana, like, it's just so ridiculous.
Right. Now I'm looking at this comment from M. Young. He says, don't ever let them in your house.
Exactly.
And I want to respond to that because I had a threat from the judge because I kept trying to say under duress, and the judge threatened me that if I said under duress again, that he would give my ex-husband full custody of my kids.
What?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So, what do you do when you have a corrupt judge that keeps aiding and abetting your ex-husband and gives him whatever he wants and pats him on the back, never charges him with anything? He's never even been charged for contempt of court or perjury. I have so many documents and police reports of him failing to return my boys when he was supposed to, and the lies that he's been making up, that he has no money but yet owns 3 properties, a motorcycle. He collects apartment rental income from his apartment complex that he owns. He works at a very internationally well-known company, factory. So he does have money hidden. And I'm confused that he's got it, but he goes and tells the court. And I guess it's because his attorney is our sitting judge's wife. And
okay, I was just going to say there's some connection here. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's always such a difficult thing.
He's got a thing with attorneys and judges and when it comes to money.
Yeah. My dad was the same way when I was growing up. And my brother and I were like teenagers, probably like middle school age. And he had hired a child attorney. My dad would try taking us on vacations or into Mexico, and it always ended up really, really bad. My brother almost died from sunstroke. I lost 15 pounds within like a week and a half. Just horrifying things. So we made it very clear that we did not want to go with our dad. We don't want to go on vacation with our dad. So he hired a child attorney and we went and talked to her. We made it very crystal clear. Well, he was paying her, and my dad designs furniture at that point. And he had furnished her whole house. And so when we were in court, she stands up and says, oh, yeah, the kids, they want to go with their dad. They want to go on vacation with him. They love their dad. And that's not at all what we said. Not anywhere near what we said. And it's just amazing how people can get away with that,
Right. And you hear about art therapy, too. That family facilitator that I was telling you about, when she came in the house here, I would be in a different room and she would have the boys write down like how they felt about, their parents and family and stuff like that. Or at school, they would be told to draw their family and they would leave their dad out of it, and just all the comparisons of what I'm trying to teach the boys, and they go totally do the opposite. I'm trying to teach the boys to raise them to go tell an authoritative person if you get hurt or something, or they're supposed to be feeling protected. And every time they did, they would get ignored, or, well, he's the father. And I even have that on audio tape. My oldest son coming in from a visitation, bawling his eyes out. And I said, you can't breathe. Can you breathe, Brad? Can you breathe? We need to take you to the ER if you can't breathe. He goes, oh, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to say, he's the father. He's the father. It's really hard.
That's not something you want to mess around with.
Right.
How is your son now? Is he okay now? You said he had life-threatening conditions?
He actually has epilepsy now.
Epilepsy.
And so I've had to witness him be in a couple of major epileptic seizures, and he's with a toxic girlfriend that my
Oh,
ex-husband encouraged to be with and live with without being married, which is against our religious upbringing.
right.
And so that's what happens when you have joint legal with somebody that does the opposite parenting. He doesn't even know how to parent because he was brought up in an abusive situation himself. But he's now dealing with his girlfriend that's controlling and manipulative, and it's kind of
Oh,
a vicious cycle. And my ex-husband's daughter, she isn't married, has two boyfriends, and has 5 kids now. She's 32,
oh wow.
and the kids are split up in foster care and going through it. And it's hard on me because I've always had a close relationship with her and a bond with her. She and I were finger crossing close, and her dad never spent time with her. And what's funny, I don't know if it's funny or not, but I kind of like the fact that my ex-husband's first wife and me and a former girlfriend are all like sisters.
Oh,
We get along so well because of the boys. The boys are top priority for us.
that's great that you guys are close like that, because who else can understand you better than other women who have been through the exact same thing with the same man? That's really great that you have that.
And his first wife and I call it laugh therapy because we think it's so stupid what he's getting by with. And
Mhm.
it's not funny, but we're trying to make light of it to get through it.
Yeah.
Just some of the stupid stuff that he would do that they're letting him get by with, and it's like, okay, whatever. So it's good. It's a healthy. It's a way for us to get through it, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Even though it's
really
not,
good.
yeah. Even though it's not funny because of the abuse and everything, but just some of the weird stuff that he would get by with and does is just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's really good that you have that kind of support, you know. That's I mean, that's wonderful, because it's really difficult when you're going through all this, and domestic violence is a real brain fucker. Sorry, my language, but it really messes with like everything. You rethink everything, and it makes life really difficult. And so to be able to share that with women who are in the exact same boat as you, that's really great.
Yeah,
So what happened with the CPS case? I know your boys are grown now, but at the end of your case, what ended up happening? Did they take away your parental rights completely, or what was the
no.
outcome?
Well, what was frustrating is the fact that in the second one, ever since I got divorced, I have been trying to get rid of stuff, but when you go from being an at-home mom, you have no money. So going from being an at-home mom to, trying to be the head of a household is a big hurdle and a big
Yeah.
jump. But yet add on this big divorce thing too, and going in and out of court. Oh, and then add on the CPS, issues and stuff. And mind you, I have a learning disability, auditory dyslexia. Plus, I've been in a car accident. I've had 6 knee surgeries,
Oh,
and
I'm
none
sorry to
of
hear
them
that.
took into play. Never asked me if I have anything, that's keeping me from getting a bunch of this stuff. Well, yeah, I'm trying to juggle so many things being by myself.
Yeah.
It's not like I haven't been trying to get, rid of a bunch of his stuff that he left here, because he did have a lot of stuff here that I didn't want.
Yeah.
And anytime I would ask the county for help, could you please help me with a dumpster so I can get rid of stuff? They would always deny getting me a dumpster and say, well, other people will probably want one then. So it took them to take my kids away before they got me a dumpster. And I
Yeah.
had a friend of mine come with a trailer that I actually had him, take away from here that I couldn't put in a garbage can. there's some certain things you can get rid of in garbage, and some you have to take out a special way and put in special places.
Right.
But it was really hard on me because I'm like, I've been trying. It's like you can only do so much in a day. I was so exhausted and hurting so bad. It got to the point where, because I was scared, I was just trying to get the boys back. They said, "Well, we need to make sure that it's safe." It's like, all these things that you're bringing up, though, have been like this even when my ex-husband was here. Why are you blaming me? I would be up 24/7. I did not take a single break. I was getting so exhausted to the point where I was pretty much on the verge of collapse, because I was trying to do whatever I could to get those boys away from their abusive ex and get this done with once and for all.
Right.
But yet, and all the anxiety too, and the fact that I kept trying to tell them about his water pipe breaking and him not having a functional bathroom. Anytime I would do welfare checks on the boys with him, oh, everything's fine. Oh, it's okay for him to be in a different town after clipping a wire. He's a flipper. He fixes and tries to act like he's a plumber and an electrician. He's not licensed, and does all this remodeling stuff without being licensed.
Oh, that's scary.
It is scary. And yet I'm the one that they take the boys from.
Yeah. That could go bad so many ways.
To him. Never once did any of the reports that we report, even his ex-girlfriend, she told me that she froze to death because he yanked a heater out of her apartment, and she pretty much froze to death. But they didn't do anything about that with him being a landlord.
Wow. Sounds like he's good at being a narcissist.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm really sorry that you had to go through all this. In a perfect world, or what should be normal with CPS, I would think that their jobs should be to figure out what's going on and what they can do to help you, so that way you can grow as a healthy family and keep families together like they supposedly do, right? And just to immediately snatch up the kids and not give you services that you need to help you, it's really just messed up. It's so messed up, and to give social workers money for taking children, it's sickening. It's sickening is what it is. And they get so much funding to be able to give you services to help you get on your feet, to help you, sustain housing or whatever their issues are with you. And they just don't. And it's really sad.
I actually have our county flip folder, and right in there are all the specifics, who abuses and who's on their so-called screening team. Okay, if you have a mental health professional on your screening team, wouldn't you think that they may see some red flags, that they should be taking the boys away from my ex-husband that has these serious mental health issues, and he has cerebral palsy, and there's a lot of chemical imbalance, and we're the ones that are trying to heal PTSD and anxiety because of all this. Yeah. And if there's a doctor on your screening team, wouldn't you think that somebody would want to do something about keeping my son that with all these health issues away from his father, that's neglecting all his meds? And it says in his chart, medical neglect by father, all before they yanked him from me. Go figure. Even the doctors that were getting frustrated.
Yeah, I'm getting frustrated listening. Like, that's ridiculous.
And so it is getting out of control when even doctors get frustrated. Our own mental health professionals are getting mad and frustrated because we're trying to work with the boys, doing one thing and being safe and not have so much stress, but yet they're getting yanked over to their abusive father, and this back and forth visitation schedule. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to have primary physical custody, and yet somehow the visitation schedule was that he was getting the boys every other week, almost every day, from after school till 9:15 at night, even when they were young toddlers, when they're 4, 6, and 7 years old. Yeah. And on holidays, bringing them home at 10 o'clock at night. Are you kidding me? And I have all the documentation of missed homework. Oh, he goes and the judge believes his lies that I wasn't sending their homework or I wasn't sending the meds. Why would I do that to my kids? I would be up till 10 o'clock at night doing homework with my children so that they get it handed in, because they have come back home to me crying because they were afraid of getting in trouble by the teacher because their father wouldn't do their homework with them.
That's horrible. Gosh. That reminds me of growing up. My dad was the same way. Wouldn't bring us back until super late homework. I don't think he's ever done homework with us. You know, and they don't see like how much this affects our children. Like, you're supposed to be doing this because of the best interest of the child. But how is placing the children with the father who, number one, is obviously an abuser, and number two is not, you know, doing their homework with them, not getting them back to you before a decent hour. Like, you know, it sounds like whoever his connection is, the lawyer or whatever, sounds like that's playing a big part in why he was able to do what he was doing.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell the judge right from day one when I got divorced. Even while we were married, he never initiated giving the boys a bath. He never initiated feeding them. There was really no bond with them. He would come home from work, expect supper to be ready or lunch to be ready while I was busy trying to be there at home mom. And, you know, at one time I was working, and all he would do is remodel. Go to work, come home, remodel, go to the store to get more remodeling toys. Well, I was the one bonding with the kids and being their mom like I'm supposed to, and reading books to them or watching Barney with them or whatever, you know. And it got worse after I got divorced. He treated them like slaves, and I was trying to get that across to somebody that would listen. You know, he's leaving the kids alone, or he went to work and leaving the boys alone with all these different girlfriends, when in the court order it says that he doesn't want third party people watching the boys, that, you know, he watches the boys when I'm working and I watch the boys, which I didn't like either, because he lies about his work schedule. He works at a job that has mandatory overtime. And one of I think the last time that my youngest son was with him, my son went to his place and he had written me a note that says, "Good news, Dad's not there, so I'll come home whenever." Come to find out, he went to a different country, a couple of different countries at 2 different summers, like the Dominican Republic and the Republic of Congo, without even telling me, just pitching his kids when it was his parenting time. He was fighting in court so bad for. But this is with a different church affiliation too. That was a violation of our joint legal custody. So that's why the boys are all screwed up with our religious upbringing now, because they were church hopping with him all the time to see what church he could go into that he can manipulate too.
Yeah, sounds confusing. Yes. Well, we're getting close on actually we're out of time here, but is there anything else that you want to say to the viewers? Any kind of advice or anything you would have done different?
No, just like I said before, just keep documenting, record, videotape. I myself never was successful getting an attorney or anything, but do a lot of self-educating too. I have some of these brochures and pamphlets that I had gotten because I looked at the judicial. It says a judicial guide for child safety and custody cases. It's unbelievable what you read in these pamphlets that judges are supposed to be following when it comes to domestic violence.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna look into getting one of those.
And it's from the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges.
Okay.
It's out of Reno, Nevada. So
great.
If anybody needs some information, they can like message me or whatever. or you, or I can give you the information.
Okay, great, Melanie. Thank you so much for being on our show. If anyone else out there wants to share their story, I saw a couple comments. Please reach out. It's really important for us to tell our stories so other people can, hear and kind of learn from, what you've been going through. So if anybody wants to be on the show, please reach out. Anyways, okay, that's it for today. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Again, Melanie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the reality series CPS Horror Stories, and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.